everyone, welcome to this Google Digital Garage training session on how to scale your brand and advertise across borders in collaboration with retail excellence. So this is the fourth webinar in the series. So to be sure to check out the previous webinars over the Retail Excellence YouTube channel if you have missed them. And we also have one more webinar coming up in June, where we will be talking about how to define your international growth strategy and build your export operations. So check the link in the description box below for more information on this. So my name is Teresa Scholz, and I'm a trainer for the Google's free digital garage. And I work for Google since over 3 years. In my core role, I work with startups and advertisers and help them market over the globe. And in my side projects, I actually engage in Google's culture and work for their international sustainability efforts. And before I joined Google, I did my bachelor's in business administration at WHU in Germany. I would also like to introduce you to our moderator, Christy. And Christy is also a Google Digital Garage coach, and she will be interacting with you via the chat and will as well answer some of the questions via the instant chat directly. So you can identify Christy on the one side via her name, and on the other side with this blue spanner right next to her name. And before we start, I would like to kick off with some housekeeping. So first and foremost, if you're having trouble to see the webinar right now, I would like to encourage you to actually refresh your page because that often helps. And if you would like to join the instant chat that I actually just mentioned before, you do need to have a YouTube account, which you can very easily set up by clicking in the box right there. We, of course, will be pausing throughout the whole session to answer some of the more complex questions from the chat box. So feel free to fire anything that comes up in your mind, and then we can discuss that hopefully. And again, just to let you know, this Google Digital Garage virtual training is part of this series that we're offering in collaboration with Retail Excellence. So if you would like to check out the schedule of the trainings and what we've done, you can find all those information as well in the description box. And last but not least, if you have any feedback, because we do love feedback, please complete the feedback form linked down in the description box. And once you completed the feedback form, you will have the option to actually download the session and rewatch it all the time. And as well, you can do that on the Retail Excellence YouTube channel. So now that the housekeeping is done, let's get started. So today we will help you with 3 things. So number 1 is actually define your brand and adapt to new markets. So create your brand voice, understand your unique selling proposition, and identify ways of connection with your audience across the world. Number 2, market your business to a global audience. So understanding core digital marketing techniques such as SEM, SEO, social media marketing, and more. Identify what they are, as well as some of the top tips that can help you to set up effective campaigns and work on your ROI. And number 3 is measure your success and optimize accordingly. So gain an insight into Google Analytics, the steps required to set up actually this tool, and what insights it can deliver for your business. So our final webinar in the series will then be all about how to define your international growth strategy and build your export operations. And so I would encourage you to stay tuned for that and sign in too, because it actually nicely complements what we were covering in today's session. And before we begin with the content, I would like to start with a quick icebreaker activity, and for you to get to know actually a bit more the chat functions. So I would like to know what's actually your motivation for today's session and what you're hoping to get out of it. So please fire anything that comes to your mind away in the chat box, because I'm super curious to hear on that. Okay. As said, feel free to post anything in. I know there's a bit of a time delay, so just because we have a full agenda of topics going on, I would just jump in, but as said, feel free to start interacting there. So let's start with looking at how we can define our brands and adapt to new markets. I'm just seeing that Kimmy wants to learn about marketing, so that's perfect that you're actually here for that, because we're going to cover that in a bit in actually our second section But now we're going to start with the first one, and defining your brand. So, and before we dive into the details, I would like to actually zoom out a bit and think about some examples of well-known brands that probably all of you know, to think about where they actually come from, what are their origins. So if you now see those 4 boxes, read through them, or we can read through them, and then actually think about what kind of brand this might be. So invented in 1946 by a pastry chef to save money on chocolate, and was taken globally by the Sun only in 1964. You might think who it is, and yes, it's actually Nutella. So feeling like a bit of chocolate now. And the second brand we would like to guess is started in 1971 by 3 students in Seattle who met while being students at the University of San Francisco, and they opened only their first overseas branch in Tokyo in 1969. And that's Starbucks. The third one is in the shed behind his house. This inventor actually developed 5,127 prototype designs in between 1979 and 1984, and only moved into the US market in 2002, which is impressive, I think. And that's Dyson. And the fourth is in 2007, 2 roommates were actually struggling to pay their rent in San Francisco. So down the line, now they have a site which offers over a million of lodging options worldwide. And of course, that is Airbnb. But we want to think about now, what did these brands actually do to become so successful? And none of them actually went into the new market super quickly. Each solidified its base and understood its core market before expanding overseas. So let's check out how they did it. So they started small and became actually experts in the industry fields. And they understood the customers, what they want, and how they wanted their products to be delivered. And with that, they actually filled a gap in the market and delivered high quality products. And with that, they could adapt and scale the demand, and taking their time at the same time to get actually things right. And when that was the case, they actually took a chance when it presented, and of course built a brand, which we're going to look into shortly. And that resulted in a very successful export, which we definitely can see on those brands. So let's turn our attention to successful branding. Well, the key to a business success for branding is actually due to 3 main reasons. So the number 1 is create differences. So branding is a way of clearly highlighting what makes your offer different to and more desirable than anyone else's. It's the visualization and personification of your USP. And effective branding elevates a product or organization from being just a commodity amongst many identical commodities to become something with a unique character and promise. And it then can create an emotional resonance in the mind of consumers. And with that, we come to the second point, it adds value. So people are generally willing to pay more for a branded product than they are for something which is largely unbranded. So as an example, Tesco began life as an economy supermarket and now sells a wide range of products from furniture to insurance. But a consistent application of the Tesco brand actually helps them to move into new markets and new sectors without changing its core brand identity, which is about the ease of access and low prices. And the third is, of course, connect with people. So creating a connection with the people is important for all organizations, and a brand can embody attributes consumers feel drawn to. So another example is here actually Apple, because Apple originally launched the iPod and catapulted the company with that from a computer business to a mass market entertainment brand, with the iPod marketing drawing heavily on people's emotional resonance and relationship with the music. So global brands all communicate consistently with one logo, one vision, and one set of values. This makes them easy to recognize anywhere in the world. So think of your organization as a person and as your brand as its personality. Your brand enthusiasts won't want your brand to change from what is familiar and important to them. So your aim is to keep your brand looking, feeling, and acting the same no matter where you are in the world. But it's also essential that it's localized for each new market. So it's kind of a balancing act. Before you localize, however, you need to make sure that you actually get the brand right. So you might think now, what do I do to successfully define my brand? Well, start with define your values, your vision, and your mission. So what is important to your brand? What do you hope to achieve? Where do you see yourself in 1, in 5, or in 10 years? And how do you connect with customers and convert them actually into brand fans? Customers love being part of the journey, so create a vision that includes them and motivates them actually to follow your brand. The second step is define your USP, or your unique selling proposition. What makes your brand so amazing? And how do you stand out from the crowd, and what makes you unique? And how can you package and promote this to potential customers? And then with that, actually, what makes customers choose you? Why are they loyal to you? And what emotional bond do you have to leverage? What motivates them to actually buy from you? And how can you keep up that success? So as the fourth step, how do customers feel when they think about your brand? And how do you want them to feel? What do you want them to think about your brand? And when communicating with customers, what do they want to see or hear? And what's important to them? So there are lots of questions that are super important to consider. And as well, for customers, it's all about trust. Because 86% say that authenticity is key when deciding which brands they like and support. And 81% say they need to be able to trust the brand they buy from. So you may want to consider now, what does it mean? But it essentially means that trust is key. And this can come in many forms. Doing what you say that you will, delivering products on time, keeping prices consistently, responding to reviews, not following the crowd, and in general, just be authentic and original. So now that we've created our brand and ticked all those boxes, how do we launch overseas? So, and what do we need to consider before we actually go overseas? So there are a couple of things to consider before doing that. So number one is think about your name, your brand name. Does your name work in the market you wish to trade in? So I would recommend you to actually check on the one side that it's not taken in other markets and that doesn't have any negative association in another cultural background or in another language. Secondly, check your visual identity and how strong is your logo and your whole appearance. Then think about your value proposition. Is it actually clear? And is there anything you need to adapt to different markets if you actually think about the marketing strategy that you're currently running and that you want to bring to another market? And further questions that you could ask yourself are, what is the name that you're currently having for your brand actually mean to you? And again, is the value proposition clear? And is the logo on point? I would recommend you to actually take time to go through this exercise after today's session and really think about if all of that makes sense. But now we're going to talk about the importance of localization. So localization is actually key to your success overseas, because 55% of consumers prefer to buy exclusively in their native language. And 72% want reviews to be in their native language, and 74% are more likely to make a second purchase if post-sales support is actually in their native language. And what does it mean? Well, essentially it means ensuring your website offers multiple language options, and as well that your marketing and communications are translated into the target language, and maybe if you can, engage local agents and employees to fit the market. But localization is more than translation, because I know it can seem like a daunting task. So where do you actually start? And I would recommend you to conduct market research. So understand the norms of your market you're trying to sell to. What do the customers like? What doesn't work? What did other companies learn? And assess the opportunity as well as the resource required to sell overseas. And with all that knowledge you gain, then re-evaluate your brand. Make sure your brand is positioned to actually achieve the success you want and you need. And will your engagement, will the things that you do engage actually the audiences, or will it rather turn them off because you may have a voice and brand style that really doesn't fit the market and the cultural background? And what do you actually need in that market? And again, will your USPs stand out in that particular market? So then as a third step, I would recommend you to revisit your marketing and communications and how do consumers receive content and marketing messages. Because think about messaging services such as WeChat and Weibo are super popular in China because Google and Facebook are not available there. So make sure that you will be able to actually engage with your audiences. So, and when we think about now about localizing our website content, there are 4 things to consider. So number 1 is speaking your customer's language. As we've seen, translation are important, but it's again not the only focus of localization. You could as well think about your hosting URL and the website hosting and review it, because you maybe want to consider changing the subdomain or the URL to a more local phrase or wording, and actually make sure with this that you will be able to host in that particular region you want to expand to. And as a third step, pay attention to local customs and trends, that you can ensure that your marketing meets local needs and connects with audiences. And with that, of course, coming to the 4th step, which is create relevant and local content. So if you can, post about any local events, update your address and location to it, and even, again, if you can, connect with local services and communities. So, for example, if you're boosting your SEO, which we're going to talk in a moment about, you also maybe want to look at local SEO. So this is all about appearing in local search rankings. So updating your address, linking with local directors, and posting about local events will help you to do this. Now, we actually finished the first section, and I would like to pause for a moment and see if there are any questions that came through. Give me a moment to read. Okay, cool. So thank you very much, Kimmy, for the question. You were asking at what time to focus on to localize your website. And I think it's, and the tips that you could do with this. So first of all, with the tips, I mean, we talked about it's about translating as a very, very important part, but as well, something that you could consider is about the payment methods that are typical in the market you would like to export to. So because not all markets are very familiar with what we use to pay things, and others just use other payment methods. So really make sure that you actually do your market research. So I think it's like a balancing act between starting to do the market research and implementing those, while at the same time making sure that you actually have your logistics for the export ready. But again, this is a balancing act, and you can see what you can do with the available resources that you have for yourself. I hope this helps for now. And with that, I would move to the next topic, which is market your business internationally. So building a brand takes time, but advertising can be actually very integral to getting you started. So you have actually begun by thinking about your brand and how you can develop your website. So let's explore how to reach your customers in new markets, because it's possible that new customers will find you through organic search results or through word of mouth, which is awesome. But search advertising, display advertising, and advertising on any social media channels while using targeted ads to reach the right audience will help you to get there actually faster. So I would like to ask you now to take a moment and reflect upon your current marketing efforts. So if you have this now present in your head and think about what you've done or what you're doing in your current markets, you may want to use this in cooperation with the upcoming content as we'll start looking at search marketing, which is the foundation of digital marketing, basically. So let's start first at looking at search, because what you see here is the search engine results page. And I guess you're all very familiar with that. But it basically contains three things. The first thing you will notice is the actual search query. So that's what someone has typed into Google. The second is the results that are then shown as either the ads or the organic listings, which is basically the thing. Ads are paid listings that appear above the organic listings, and there can up to be 4 paid listings above. And let's take a closer look at SEM, which is search engine marketing. And as the name suggests, it's basically the process of advertising through any search engine. So they can be on Google, but as well on Bing or Yahoo. And it's often done via paid ads. So you essentially purchase ad spots which promote your featured adverts across designated websites and networks. And marketers and organizations bid against industry peers to secure these ad spots. So the bidding process and the price paid for these ads can depend on a number of factors, from the amount of responses gained from ads to the number of impressions per click. And search ads appear again on top of the results page. And you will actually see that those ads are tagged with the word ad to indicate paid content. And to actually create one, you would need Google Ads, for example. And you may want to think now, what are actually my benefits if I do SEM? So the number one thing is that paid ads give you quick results because, again, they appear above the organic adverts, and you can actually target specific audiences and market to them directly. And with that, you can broadcast your message across multiple channels, and that you can even use them if you have budget constraints or are very careful with going on, because it can be very well tracked and measured. So you think now, how do I get started with SEM? So I would recommend you to actually start with those simple steps. So number one is you can just log into your Google Ads with your Google account, or you just create one. And each ad that you would like to send out has to start with a campaign. So if you sell a lot of different products, then campaigns help you to actually organize your different promoters. So if you're, for example, a shoe seller, you might want to have a campaign for men's boot and a different one for women's shoes or winter Wellingtons, just to make sure that you have the best overview. And as we are focusing on search advertising, you would then select the search network to ensure the AdWords are actually shown there. And the fourth step is that you maybe really want to be sure in which area you actually advertise. So you can choose a specific city, a specific postcode initially, and so on and so forth. But keep in mind that the larger the geographic area actually is, the more search volume is likely to get. And you can even, depends on the matter of your business, specify times of the day or specific days of the week you actually want your adverts to run, or of course on the other hand, not to run. And you will also be given the opportunity to set the budget for the campaign that you're running. You have to enter a bid that really makes you feel comfortable with what you're bidding to. And I would actually recommend you to start on the lower end, just for yourself to get a feeling and you're actually feeling comfortable with what you're doing. And then the fifth step is actually choose your keywords. So you'll be able to add keywords that are related to your ad and to your advert. So make sure that those keywords are actually tightly themed and consider matching options to actually strengthen them. So just remember, keywords are actually words or phrases that are used to match your ads with the search query that came in. And yeah, you need to just think about what would people search for when they're looking for your products. And the last step is keep your headlines in line with actually what I just mentioned, with what people are searching for. And if you have any promotions or offers ongoing, I would always encourage you to put them into. So again, now have a look at the top tips for SEM. We covered them a bit, but just for you to have an overview again. So number one is curate your keyword list. because the relevancy of your keywords to an advertisement impacts actually the so-called click-through rate, or CTR, and the quality score of your advertisement. And think about, the more often your advertisement actually gets clicked, the higher the quality score, and the less you have to pay for your bid position in the long run. And secondly, a second very good tip is actually that you boost your ad extensions, because that's one of the quickest and easiest way that you can improve the so-called click-through rate. And because they make your ads stand out and add further context depending on the matter of your business. And it's actually very cool because in the long run, they can make your ads cheaper because it just performs better, and they're available at no charge, or no extra charge. And the third step is actually connect your Google Analytics account, because that actually helps you to track what you have done and how effective your marketing overall is. But before we talk over Google Analytics, which will be the last part of the session, we would like to have a closer look at SEO for now. So SEO, or Search Engine Optimization, is actually the process of making a website more visible and more relevant to any kind of search engine, which has then the goal that you will be appearing more prominently in the organic search listings. And again, that actually helps you, this SEO process, to show up higher in the non-paid results. And it makes it easier for people who are looking for your website or for stuff that is, or content that is on your website, to find your business. But for example, Google now has over 200 signals to actually determine how different pages rank. And let's think about some of the most important aspects for an SEO program. So again, just take a step back and think about the search engine's primary goal is actually to help people find what they're looking for. So if you as a business then can help the search engine to decide that your website is what people are actually looking for, you're in a good shape, because that's exactly what SEO is. So making improvements to your website and its content can help a search engine to find and understand your site. So when someone visits Google and types in a word or phrase, the search query, so a list of relevant results is displayed. And again, then it helps the search engine to actually put on your website on a higher note. So let's look again at the difference between SEO and SEM. SEO itself is available at no charge, which of course is the main benefit of it. So you pay nothing to any search engines like Google, and you rank based on your relevancy to the search query. On the contrary, SEM is where you pay, but only when someone clicks on your ad. So if your ad could even serve 10 times, but it only gets clicked once, you only pay once. And we as Google now, we optimize by sending relevant signals to the likes based on your website, incoming links, and other factors like reviews, which influences them both. With SEM, you choose the keyword and the bid. So it's much easier to be visible for important keywords than on SEO. Because always keep in mind that SEO takes a lot of time. So depending on the nature of your competition and your business, the type of search query you're trying to rank for. So think about translation. If you want to rank on the first page for translation, it may take you even months until you get there. However, ranking for professional English translation might only take a few weeks, as it's way more specific and there will be lesser competition overall. And you might wonder now how you get started with SEO in first place. So as the first step, you actually need to sign up for Google Search Console, which is a tool from Google, which is as well available at no charge. And it will actually be able to tell you more accurately how you and your website ranks on Google Search. And with that, you can actually submit your content to Google and monitor how you're doing in search. And as well, it will send you alerts on any critical issues that might appear. So, and then the second step is help Google to find your content. So you should consider actually having a sitemap. because that will help the Google bots, the little Google robots, understand the structure of your site. So when it comes to being indexed, Google better understands how your site links together. So submit a site map, promote your site on and offline, and share new content. Because that leads us to the third step, optimize your content. Because creating valuable content that users really want is key. And Google really values useful and fresh content that helps the user, the end user in the end, to find what they're looking for. So I would recommend you to actually create unique and accurate page titles and put them in a logical order and support them via snippets. You can even use heading tags to emphasize important text to push it further. So overall, SEO helps you to improve your website visibility for people who are searching for products that you are offering. And the thing is, again, there's no shortcut for SEO, which helps you improve your website visibility for people who are searching for products and services like yours. So I would recommend you, again, conduct really keyword research. Discover and understand what words or phrases people are looking for, and when they are searching for products and services that you want them to be shown. So the title and the meta description are important because they're both used by any search engine to generate the actual search result for that specific page. And the title itself is then used to generate the first line shown. And the meta description is used to generate the few short sentences that actually follow. And as mentioned before, publish useful, high-quality content so that you can actually show that you understand your customers and optimize your content to suit their needs. And then the third top tip is actually make your web page search-friendly. So on-page optimization or any changes on your website's individual pages can help any search engine to quickly and better understand your content. And always, please keep in mind that there's no speed up process. Like, don't do any like those sneaky techniques like stuffing your websites with keywords to actually boost your SEO ranking, because that most times doesn't really work. But let's look at another way that you can enhance your business visibility on search, because that's with Google My Business. And with that, I would actually recommend you to create a Google profile, a Google business profile on Google. And if you haven't done so, please visit business.google.com/create or download the Google My Business app. Because if you then do this, you can actually follow the instructions and just claim your business profile on Google. And this profile, again, is available at no charge and enables your business to appear on local searches and on Google Maps. So to complete your profile, you will need to provide some information as the location, the category, the website, a phone number, opening hours, and a description of your business activities. And this information then provided will appear in Google search results after either a user when they're searching for those specific keywords that match your site, or when they search specifically for your website. But be in mind that a listing for your business will already appear on Google Maps if someone has left a review for you previously. So if this is the case, you will need to verify that you actually own the business before you can claim the listing and edit it accordingly. And a final consideration is optimizing your site's performance, because it's very important to make sure your business website works as well on mobile. Because a mobile-friendly site can bring you more visitors, giving them a better experience, and bring in more business, because we all know how much we use our mobile phones nowadays. And with mobile search engine optimization, so mobile SEO, it does include very similar or almost the same factors you'd consider for standard websites, for like websites, like the relevant content. But what's crucial for mobile sites is performance and actually usability. So performance on the one side is actually how quickly a site loads. And this can be impacted by many things, such as like an overly large image sizes or file sizes. And usability refers to visitors' experience using your site. So generally speaking, if your site has a good mobile user experience, it will be as well likely to appear in mobile search results. So for example, some videos and content formats can't be viewed on mobile. That wouldn't deliver a good experience, right? So that would be a pitfall. So as a combined example, imagine the following. You're a local plumber and you want to increase your customer base. How might you use mobile to get new customers? Well, you might run an ad on the local newspaper that directs viewers to your website. And your mobile optimized site could have a promo button on the homepage to offer new customers a 20% discount on their first service. And the phone number near the top of your page when viewed on mobile can be clicked to start a phone call. Easy, super. And let's take now a look at some of the steps you can take to optimize your site for success. So we have 4 optimization tips, and we're going to go through them now. So we have looked at content, but what do you need to do in regards to how people find your website and actually interact with it? So number 1, consider adding local suffixes in your URL. So the local top domain like .com, .org, .net, and many e-commerce sites actually choose .com because users try to find .com first when they type things in without a search engine. And although Google uses the content to determine its language, the URL gives your users useful clues about your content. So signaling in the language in the URL can help you to discover issues with multilingual content on your site. So it's fine to translate words in the URL or to use an internationalized domain name. Step number 2 is maximize your visibility with targeted search engine optimization. So do your international SEO correctly, and your Google search users should land on the correct landing page and the correct site of your website. So if you, for example, visit google.com, you will automatically be redirected to your country-specific Google search page. But imagine now a user is arriving from a Spanish landing page looking for an English content. Forcing them direct via redirect to the Spanish section would diminish the user experience and engagement. So what are your options? Well, there are 3. So number 1 is no geo-redirect gives the user the opportunity to stay where they land on your English sites, despite actually their Spanish landing page. The second option is no geo-redirect until payment lets the user choose their own journey until they arrive at that buy now, when they are automatically redirected. And the third is the automatic geo-redirect, which gives the user no choice but to automatically be redirected to your Spanish content. As well, pop-up geo-direct banners, such as, would you like to go to our Spanish site or stay on our English site, gives then the user actually the power to decide. So step number 3 of optimizing your website is upload speeds. Very important, because don't assume that users will have access to 4G networks everywhere in the world, because most of the world is still on 3G or even slower. So design your website to load quickly so that people don't give up before they even get in, because you know how shortened our people's patience can be when it comes to website loading. Just always think about yourself. And some hints for increasing upload speed is eye-catching media is an effective way to engage users, but too much often actually really hinders the page speed and results in the fact that your page loads very, very slowly. And users are leaving before they actually see your most important their most important information and your content. So if you can compress any images that you're using and limit the number of navigation links and avoid pop-ups or other features that could interfere with navigation, as long as that's possible. And then, and I talked about that earlier, is take payments in local currencies. So the easier you make it for customers to pay for your goods or service, the more likely they are to buy, so you don't have any shopping carts abundance. So think about that the popular payment network methods are in the country or in the market you would like to go to, and integrate them into your approach. Cool. And with that, I would like to move on to the next topic of social media channels for online marketing. So social advertising does basically exactly what it says on the tin. It enables you to market your business, goods, and services to audiences via social media channels such as Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And social media advertising is becoming increasingly popular with businesses. Spending on social campaigns is actually expected to grow at an annual rate of 24.5%, with companies projected to invest over $242 billion in social advertising campaigns by 2023. This is crazy. But you're going to think now, you may be thinking now, what are actually the benefits of social advertising? And there are four main ones. So the number one is actually connecting with a global audience, because with social advertising, you can reach users across the globe with just a touch of a button. And with that, you can sell across markets and borders with ease. And at the same time, you can actually create a sense of community. So with the usage of hashtags and forums or joint discussions, you actually foster interaction and, again, have then the sense of community with your customers. And at the same time, you can reach your target audience because you can use core demographics to ensure the right people actually receiving the messages that you are sending out. And with that, you can actually turn customers into brand fans. So you can foster loyalty and turn customers into long-lasting fans, which is awesome. But again, and I mentioned that earlier already, think about that different countries may have different social media channels, which really vary in popularity. Not every country uses the channels that we are using here in Ireland, for example. So always keep that in mind. And let's discuss the differences between organic and paid social advertising. So if you look at those two ads, please just have a think about what are the differences. Because on the left side, you actually see an organic social media listings. And the differences is actually that views, actions, or clicks from posts are available at no charge, which is great. And the content appears on your business profile and in people's news feeds. But it can only reach your followers and friends of followers. Whereas on the other side, paid social media is you pay for views and actions or any clicks from your posts or adverts. But your adverts can then appear in more places, and you can even reach people that don't follow you or that don't even know you yet. So again, for the visual comparison of both, you can see them now on the slides, left organic and on the right paid. And with that, let's think about how to set up your campaign for success. So of course, you're going to need to start with your objective, which is the most important thing of anything, is the definition of your goals. What do you want to reach and what is your objective? Because objective and goals should always align. And with that, you need to identify your target audience, because you may want to consider and define your ideal customer. Like create a profile of that person and search for the key demographics. And then you can accordingly come to step 3 and create an ad creative. Because to have a good ad creative, you actually need to understand who you're marketing to. So, and then you can actually make sure that your ads are engaging, and you can use mixed media like photos, posts, video, text, whatever comes to your mind. And of course, then the last step is allocate your budget correctly. So set weekly and daily budgets, caps, to actually ensure your campaign is running smoothly, and don't spend your budget too quickly. So as said previous, make sure you manage it efficiently and you're getting comfortable before you're going very big. But let's move on to the last topic, definitely not the least, which is email marketing. So unlike one-to-one messages that you can have, for example, on social media or in any chats that you're having, email marketing entails sending one message to many people. And think about, or really keep in mind, that it's permission-based, which means that your readers must opt in to receiving your communication. And you actually need to explain them why they're receiving it. At the same time, keep in mind you must also give them the ability to opt out easily when you're sending them an email. And always keep in mind that each market may have different email marketing laws. So our moderator, Christy, will share a link now in the chat with the summaries of the rules in Ireland to actually make sure that you're set up here. And then depending on the market, I would highly recommend you to actually check out these laws in the other countries that are interesting to you. But At the same time, email marketing gives you the opportunity to communicate on a large scale with people who actually cared enough already about your brand and about what you are selling that they were willing to share with you their email address. So you can see it as an extended invitation. They want to hear from you to get useful information and relevant product offers. And our top tips for successful email marketing campaigns is the number one is actually personalize your emails. So use the data that you're permitted to use and that you got from your audience to personalize your messages. So you could think about email on birthdays or use first names or whatever comes to your mind. Like, just be creative, but be personal. And with that, second spot is target the audience. And again, using demographic brackets such as age, location, or anything, again, that comes to your mind to make sure that the communication you have with those persons are relevant to them and that the right message comes to the right person. And then the third tip is actually that you automate your communication. So if you have that automated, customers can actually communicate with you 24/7. So think about setting optimum times for emails to be sent out and ensure customers feel like they have a consistent level of support and contact. So we are now at the second stop. So if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. Okay, so I got here the question of if it matters how often I should publish new content, for example, on blogs. It definitely does matter. And again, it's a balancing act because you want to be engaged with your customers and you want them to, you want to be top of mind when they think about the product that you're selling, but then at the same time, you don't want to annoy your customers. So really think about how often you, for example, would be happy to receive a newsletter or a blog or updates, or where you would get to the level of being like, oh my God, I'm going to turn this off because it's too annoying. So really always try to step into the shoes of the customers and the persons you're talking to and think about what's optimal for them. So it's a trial and error thing, and I would highly recommend to test it out. Maybe have a little trial audience that can even be family and friends to figure out what works best. So yes, it does matter how often you should publish new content, but at the same time, it as well depends on your resources. So make sure that you can use them well. Okay, and with that, in interest of time, I would move on to the last topic, which is the third and final one, and that's measure and track your success, which is super important because now that we have covered advertising options, let's think about being smarter at who you advertise to, when, and where. Because it's all about data, and with the right data, you can actually advertise to people who have visited your website already and make your communications more specific and targeted to the actions they took on your website. So for example, if you're an online shop, which kind of items did they viewed or at what step did they actually left the website again? And that can actually help you improve your conversion rate, which is probably what you care in the end about. So try using ads to convince them to buy, and then Google Analytics can help you to gain those insights that I was referring to and to work your way through into new markets and that you know how to expand into them. But again, remember to actually clearly state in your privacy policy how you're using the visitors' data. That's super important. And with that, you actually then can show the ads to people who are interested in your business and encourage them to actually come back to your site. And just as a side note, we have covered Google Analytics in a little more detail in our April webinar. And Christy is so nice and will share the link now in the live chat to the session if you really want to have a deep dive into analytics. And I would recommend you to check it out later, of course. But now we're going to move on about the start in Google Analytics. So what is it? And it's actually an analytics tool by Google, which is available at no charge. And it includes a huge suite of customizable reports that answer any questions about the effectiveness of your site. So, for example, what are people reading and viewing? How much time do they spend on my site or on a specific subsite? Which devices do they actually use? Thinking about, again, what we talked earlier. Are they coming from mobile or are they coming from a laptop or any other device? And which marketing channels directed them? So you can see, okay, what kind of marketing channel for me is most efficient, and tells you how well your marketing is in the end working. And again, if you're an e-commerce site, what is the status? What's the step where people actually are abandoning their shopping carts? So in a nutshell, and ultimately, it helps you to get an idea of who are my visitors, how do they find me, what are they doing on my website, and what are they worth to me? And those Google Analytics reports can actually help you to make smart decisions about your site design, about the content, about functionality. And now that we discussed many of the benefits, let's check out how to actually get started. Because I and we all here want to make sure that everyone here leaves knowing how to set up for success and for Google Analytics. So you're going to go to google.com/analytics and name your account as the first step, which is very important actually if you have multiple to get a structured overview. And then choose your industry category. And you maybe need to think about now for a second. Well, I would encourage you to think about now why this is so important to choose an industry category. And yes, most of you had it probably on top of their mind. It's great for benchmarking, because benchmarking against others who are tagged in the same industry can help you on those aggregate level, because it's actually anonymous data, but on an aggregated level, give you an idea on what your bounce rate is and what your performance rate is against others, which I think is always super insightful. But for now, let's look at the all-important tracking code and how to add it, because that's super important. And you need to go to your admin and then tracking info and tracking code. And once your code is found, it needs to be embedded within every single page of the website you want to be tracked. So this code sits above the head tag, so it begins tracking from when the page actually first loads. And keep in mind that when a page loads, the tracking code will process information about user activity. And Google Analytics group these activities into a period of times called sessions. And adding it to your site. So regardless of how you build your website, the code needs to be installed on every single page of your site. And your developer should actually be able to help you with this. But if you have built a site for yourself using like a system like WordPress or Wix or GoDaddy, there's normally a guide how to do it on their sites. So if you're, for example, using WordPress, either install the plugin or some themes or templates that just allow you to enter this unique tracking ID. And now, once you've begun tracking your site, it's important to think about, again, your goals, the most important thing. And to think about your goals, let's check out what tools are available for us. So what you're seeing now is a full load of information, because that's the Google Analytics dashboard. And there are a ton of different reports and insights available for you. For example, you can have a report on real time, on audiences, on acquisitions, the user behavior, on conversions, or getting insights on the previous users, or actually the users that are right now, exactly in this moment on your website, the sessions that they're having, or the bounce rate, and so on and so forth. So there's loads of data available. And let's just dive for a moment into a particular metric, which is page view. So the page view, for example, lets you see how often each page on your website was visited. And this is, for example, different than visitors, because one visitor can contribute to a lot of multiple page views. And then there's, again, unique page views, which is the number, which probably will be less than your page views, because the metric refers to the number of individual people who have visited a specific page at least once. So if a visitor loads the same page several times, it only counts once as a page view. So what are the reports are there that we can gain? And all of Google Analytics reports are basically grouped in 4 main areas to help you answer those questions that we mentioned before. So you will see these areas on the navigation menu on the left side of your home screen. And Google then uses the data and shows you a series of reports. So we have, again, the 4 key reports. And who are they? Meaning, what is my audience? So audiences analytics are users that you group together based on any combination of attributes that is meaningful to your business. So you can create a broad definitions like all users who at any time purchased a product, or all users who have purchased within the last 12 months, but not during the last 2. And that gives you the opportunity to actually understand how many users you may have, and again, the bounce rate. And with that, understanding the key demographics, interests, and behaviors. The second main report is actually the acquisition metrics, which helps you to understand the volume of users and the audience, and how well this audience works to get you potential new business. The third one is actually the behavior, which I find always super interesting, because the behavior metrics lets you know how well your sites engage users, whether they're leaving after only a single page, which is again talking about the bounce rate, whether they're viewing multiple pages, and then you can think about the pages per session, and whether they're spending the amount of time engaging with your content that you want and that you like. And of course, the fourth metric is conversions, because the conversion metric lets you know whether users are completing the transactions and goals and generating the revenue that you want. So, and now you may think, how can Google Analytics help us grow internationally? So there's another report called the location report, and it will show you on the map where users are accessing your site from. And you might gonna think now, why is this useful? Because think about, perhaps you're getting a lot of traffic from a particular country, but you don't currently ship there. And this can help you discover new markets. So let's pretend Google Analytics has shown you that a large number of your customers have appeared to be in France. So you might want your ads to be served to a high population area like Paris. So think about that you always need to be specific with your campaign, and the more specific you are, the better your results will be. And with this, we have one more time for questions before I'm going to end the sessions. So if there's anything on top of your mind, please let us know. Otherwise, we can move on and think about what are your next steps. So of course, we would love to hear about your key takeaways from today's session. So again, feel free to fire them away in the chat. And I know that we have covered a lot of information today. So let's talk about what you should do next. So definitely, you should check out the new Google for Business, the new Google for Small Business website, because this is your one-stop shop actually to find the right tools and resources for your business. So from the step-by-step online success guides to digital toolkit, and of course, right now, top tips for dealing with COVID-19. So you can discover how to show up on Google, create and improve your website, reach more customers, and build loyalty and work efficiently from anywhere. And Christy is right now going to share the link in the chat. And with that, I would like to wrap up. So thank you all very much for being here, for sending questions through, and as well for spending the time with us. I hope that it has been a useful dive into how to scale your brand and advertise across borders. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this session, if you're interested in more trainings from the Google Digital Garage, there are a few ways you actually can continue learning. Because we're running one more Digital Garage webinar in collaboration with Retail Excellence, so please see information on this in the description below. And if you would like to carry on learning online in your own time, or check out some of our other Google Digital Garage live webinars, check out the Google Digital website for more online trainings, courses, which are available to you at 24/7. And the link of that is, of course, as well in the description. So finally, if you have any feedback, because we love feedback from today's session, please complete the feedback form. Link down as well in the description box. And once you completed the feedback form, again, a link will appear for you to download today's content. And again, we'll also keep the webinar live for you to rewatch. So thank you all very much, and we're looking forward to welcome you again to another Google Digital Garage training session too. Have a beautiful day and goodbye.